Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar with TPC and Certus. We are entitled How to Use Digital Platforms to Improve Your Safety and Compliance Programs. My name is Ryan Smith, the Solutions Manager here with TPC, and I'm joined by Riley Wood, our Account Executive here and expert on all things digital platform development here at TPC and Certus. And we're going to be spending some time with you today talking about digital platforms and really some of the latest kind of issues that we're seeing out there in the safety compliance industry, we can say. And then we're also going to be able to show you a kind of a demo as well of some of these concepts in action. So as we get started during today's webinar, I'd like to just cover a few quick housekeeping related items and actually get to know a little bit more about you who are tuning in here as well. First and foremost, this webinar session is being recorded today. And this recording will be made live on our website. So be on the lookout for an email to that link to that recording within about 2 to 3 business days of today's webinar date. And secondly, with that recording, you'll also have access to the PDF of these slides. So you don't have to worry about taking screenshots or anything of the slides. We should have those available to you at the 2 to 3 business day mark. And then finally, because this webinar is live and in the moment right now, you're welcome to interact with us. Actually, we highly encourage that you do by using our Q&A feature here on this Zoom webinar. And so when you go to your toolbar, either above or below your screen, you'll see some options there. One of them you should see is called Q&A. And when you click on the Q&A, you can actually type in a question for us, and we'll be able to collect those questions and answer them by the end of the session today. So really feel free to use that to your heart's content. We're really here to help answer any questions that you have. Lastly, this webinar is probably going to be about between 30 and 45 minutes is what we're aiming for, but we have the full hour to help with any Q&A sessions and questions. Before we jump into the meat and potatoes of this presentation, we really want to do a quick what we call a poll to just let you know a little bit more about who's here. So as we got people coming in the door as well, we're going to start our poll. And so what you're going to see is just 2 questions for you. And we're launching the poll to you right now. The first question is, how would you describe your role at your organization? And if none of these apply to you, you can say other. Technician or operator, kind of more technical. Are you a manager or supervisor of someone doing the work? Are you a safety manager at your facility? Are you in the human resources or people business at your facility? Or would you say other? So just kind of get to know kind of the types, the mindsets of folks who are here today. And then secondly, how do you presently document and track your safety and compliance program presently? And if it doesn't apply to you or that question doesn't apply to you, feel free to skip it, but also answer the best you can. Are you documenting your safety program presently with paper forms? With a digital web-based platform, to your knowledge, you do not document your safety and compliance program presently, or you're just not sure whether you do or don't and in which format you do. And that's totally okay too. So we're seeing some great questions and great answers to these questions coming in. I think we got all of the folks answered here. So I'm going to go ahead and end that poll. And we are going to share the results with everyone here today. There we go. So you should see the results of the poll showing up here. Now, we have definitely a good amount of people supervising work out there on the floor and making sure that it's safe. So those are the folks who are really going to be responsible for implementing on some of these safety measures firsthand with their employees. So you are the folks here at 38% who are here. The other 28% are all sorts of other roles that we didn't include in the top 4 here. Whether you're out there doing other types of work. So definitely welcome to our webinar. We also have some safety managers here. 24% of you are considered safety managers. So thank you all for being here. This is a perfect opportunity for us to talk from that safety perspective and from the manager and supervisor perspective. And really, as you see, it was a dead heat between those of you who are using a digital web-based platform and those of you who are using paper forms. Almost 50-50 or 42 and 44% of you respectively are doing paper forms and digital forms. So we're going to be talking about the the differences and kind of some of the challenges with doing paper and some of the benefits of getting into digital, but also just one specific use case of using digital platforms today. And for those of you who aren't sure, that's totally valid too. There's 12% of you who are like, you know what, we're not sure if it's paper or digital. That's a all too common sentiment in today's industry as well, where I'm really not sure how it's being documented. That's something we have to look into as part of our safety program. Let's go ahead and stop sharing. So what you should see is that those poll questions and those bar graphs have disappeared from your screen. And what you should see as big as possible on your screen is our presentation today called How to Use Platforms to Improve Your Safety and Compliance Program, right at the top of your screen, or right in the center of your screen. And with that, we should be able to get started. So what I'm going to do is take you through just a couple discussion points about the whole idea of going from a paper to digital and kind of some of the latest safety stuff happening in terms of OSHA. And then I'll be able to hand it over to Riley, and he'll be able to walk you through a hands-on demonstration of the use case of using a digital platform for your safety and compliance program. So let's get started first in just breaking down what we're going to talk about today. So first, we're going to cover just some of the common challenges that are out there that modern solutions can improve when it comes to safety. The latest changes to OSHA's penalty structure that just came in action this year and was just put into activity this year. And then how to smartly switch from paper to digital safety audits and inspections, and kind of what are some of the steps you would have to do to make that happen. And how to more consistently view safety performance and results at a large scale. So kind of talking about the scalability factor and how this lends itself to that. When you have let's say 2 or 3 people doing safety inspections versus, let's say, 10 locations and thousands of employees having to do these inspections and keeping track of how they're being done on a daily basis, that's where it really starts getting interesting. And where digital becomes more important. And then finally, how to utilize these digital tools to aid in decision making. So obviously, safety inspections are all well and good, but if we're not actually doing something about those safety inspections, we have to make it as easy as possible for those people to make decisions and make changes based on what we're seeing out there. And then finally, a demonstration of our answer to the mobile audit and inspection product and kind of the way we approach it here at TPC and Certus. All right, so let's talk about those common challenges first. First one being, we find that a lot of our clients and organizations here with Certus are finding it difficult to manage just the volume of documentation required for safety compliance. For instance, with a lot of these motorized trucks that are in these facilities, you got to do a daily inspection. Each time you're getting into one of these, let's say forklifts, you got to inspect it and document the fact that you did that inspection. And those get a little difficult to manage out of those little books that get ripped and lost, and it's kind of hard to find those paper trails. And then daily workspace inspections as well. Let's say we're working on a manufacturing line or in a certain area of a facility that we got to inspect for walking and working surfaces hazards, fire hazards, that kind of thing, and keep that on a regular basis at our facility to meet OSHA standards. Just that becomes hundreds and hundreds of documents that end up getting collected. And there's only so much room in a filing cabinet for that. So we're finding that is one definite common challenge. And when it comes to the paper trail, that becomes even harder. So let's say we're collecting, thousands of documents over the course of a year in terms of audits and inspections and trainings that were given to each individual employee. And did they sign into the training? Were they at the training? Did they sign their friend into the training, or did they actually attend the training? All these little things that are happening about who got trained and when, which audits happened when. I'm sure you're all hopefully nodding along because I've definitely lived that life as well. Working as a process improvement engineer before working here at Certus, we really, it can get overwhelming quickly, I guess you could say. And so when you start trying to ask yourself, amid all this data, let's say, what is the history of doing inspections on line 1 of my facility? Line number 1, when we did safety inspections, when we actually did safety inspections on walking and working surfaces for line 1, what's the history of that? That becomes a very, very difficult question to answer if you're managing with paper. You got to go find the right page. We definitely did safety inspections where I was working before And it just kind of it becomes a challenge. You got to really do a lot of manual labor. And doing so in the event of a OSHA inspection, which we're going to talk about later, it becomes even more of a stressful point and can actually become a liability for the company. And that extra work, really, if you imagine you're this guy on the bottom here doing an inspection on paper, and you fill in that information, and you notice some things that are not quite right when you're looking at your workspace, and some corrective actions maybe you're writing in the margin of this sheet of paper. You hand it to someone, and then where does that piece of paper go to actually get that resolved, right? And maybe seeing, oh, this was actually an issue 6 months ago. This was actually an issue 2 years ago. This was actually an issue 5 years ago too. So it's becoming a cycle as well, and a trend. Those types of things are really not easy to keep track of if we don't have a way of looking at that and kind of cutting or filtering the information that we're getting in our safety and compliance programs by what we're interested in and what OSHA would be interested in as well. And so, for instance, this guy take this piece of paper, and if we want to document it, we have to either retype or reproduce what was on that sheet of paper in some sort of centralized system, let's say a maintenance management system like SAP or something like that, where we can actually make that into a work order. It's just a whole manual process of labor that becomes just more and more annoying for folks to have to deal with. And then finally, the idea of having just an unannounced inspection from OSHA, because of all these factors we just talked about, becomes a high anxiety thing that comes to the role, because now suddenly we are seeing that if someone were to knock on our door, we wouldn't know how to find the documentation we need to meet that, and to kind of be coming to the table in the event of this OSHA inspection. So that's kind of some of the really background anxieties we see from customers that really we're trying to have a solution for, and get better solutions for them. Exactly. So let's talk about this OSHA piece, because there are some updates that just came here in 2023. And there's kind of the latest penalty structure from OSHA that I can just briefly cover. Here's the direct document on their OSHA website, the Federal Civil Penalties and Inflation Adjustment Act. So with this, we actually see that OSHA has increased even more so the cost of a typical infraction or civil penalty to this number. So $15,625. That's up from a little over $14,000 before. So just the cost to a company for every violation that is observed by OSHA or reported, self-reported by employees of the organization that brings an OSHA inspection to your door is just more and more costly to our organizations. And because of that, the payback, I guess you could say, the ROI for investing in more ways to make decision-making and to make safety improvements happen quicker and more streamlined, it really starts paying itself back, I guess you could say. Maximum penalties, again, so for the maximum total penalties were increased to that number, which is, as you can see, 10 times that at $156,000 for full violations where they add up to be that much. And then OSHA has also expanded the ability to do instance by instance citations. So you can really, for really serious issues, you can start kind of putting together instance by instance what violations were happening in that event. And then at that point, you could have working surfaces that went wrong. Let's say there was a slip hazard, someone slipped, but then they slipped and fell over, let's say, a platform because there wasn't proper fall protection in place on that platform, let's say guardrails and that kind of thing. And there weren't proper guardrails because of let's say another issue. And so there becomes all sorts of different issues, and moment by moment of that accident then becomes its own violation and becomes just a serious terrible thing for obviously our employees, but also a terrible thing for our company's bottom line. And that's kind of where some of the motivations for investing in more safety compliance comes into play. So obviously you can tell we really are passionate about that switch from paper to digital here at TPC and Certus, and kind of what that means and how that can provide value So going from having, let's say, a file cabinet somewhere in someone's office that may or may not be locked and we may or may not be able to access at any given time, to a centralized platform where anyone who has that login credential that you've identified as the company can get in and get access to all this information instantly, and be able to take a look at through. Not only be able to get access to, let's say, reporting data if you're a supervisor, but you can also be going in here and filling out a form and just submitting it as easy as having it on your phone or your mobile device, and just get it done, get it submitted, and it's in the system. And now immediately everyone in your department or at your location or across your organization can see the results of that inspection. So that obviously makes for a more clear documentation of audits and inspections in your facilities. It's all laid out in one place. There's really no ability to do an incomplete inspection because all the form items that we want to be filled out are there, which is great. There's no coffee stains, let's say, or ripped up pages. Also, there is specific information, kind of the filtering of the data. That's really easy to be done. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in terms of, okay, do you want to know all the audits that were done in your specific facility? Let's say the Charlotte, North Carolina facility of your organization. We can filter by Charlotte, North Carolina, or we can filter by line 1 in Charlotte, North Carolina, or we can filter by all operations department versus all maintenance department inspections that were done. Or we can filter by JHA's, job hazard analysis, that were completed, or job briefings, or walkarounds that were completed during this day, this specific day, or this specific week, to really see how our compliance is going in our facility. Are we keeping a great example of this in terms of audits is, are we keeping lockout tagout audits? We have an annual requirement according to our qualified electrical worker standard, the NFPA 70E. Are we auditing everyone's lockout tagout procedures at our facility every year? And are we documenting them as such? This would be a perfect application of that kind of thing. You can filter by not only date ranges and locations, but who filled in the audit. So you can even say, who did Ryan Smith, what did Ryan Smith audit this week and this year? And how was the way he audited different from the way the other person audited? It's definitely, you can get a lot more intel and a lot more trends that way as well. And as soon as you hit submit on these types of digital forms, that, as you can imagine, the speed of the internet, they're instantly available. So that quick transfer of information, when you think back to the scenario of that guy with the sheet of paper on his notepad, how long it took to get that information into the hands of who's making the decision, right? Maybe an hour, maybe he was able to walk it over and get it in their hand, and it sat on their desk and they finally got through it. Or was that person immediately notified from the system and they were able to look at the form instantly? He didn't have to even walk it over to the person. It was immediately available for people. So that kind of lends itself, that kind of ease, that kind of streamlining that's available through digital platforms. It paves the way to scaling as well at your facility, because obviously managing paper becomes harder and harder as you grow as an organization, and as you let's say start producing more material or more products per hour, and start hiring more employees. But at a larger scale, some of our reporting features and some of our what we call multi-view features that are available in these digital platforms become way more useful. So you can start seeing some of the filtering that can happen, and comparing multiple form submissions together to see how things have changed, let's say from 2022 to 2023, or from January to February of this year, or from line 1 to line 2, comparing them, whatever you might want to do there in terms of trending over time. The patterns are starting to emerge when you start comparing multiple form submissions together. And what you also see with digital platforms that is really not easy to do on paper is take pictures, get a visual representation of what you're seeing out there. So, the widget on the left-hand side of the ladder on line number 2, southeast side is loose and it doesn't look proper, blah, blah, blah. And you can describe it as much as you want, but actually snapping a picture of that loose motor guarding, let's say, and we take a picture and there it is. And oh my gosh, there's no disputing it. That is exactly not a good thing. This person definitely saw something and there it is. And so taking a picture like we see here of our surroundings and putting it into the inspection form really makes it that much more effective for people. And then not everyone, this is where you can really set up an ecosystem of users in your facility, where some are going to be able to see that reporting data and some are just going to be able to fill in the forms and really provide the input to that reporting. So it's really up to you in terms of doing trends and reporting. And then finally, we're going to talk about this in just a few moments too, customizing our forms to meet our specific needs. So if a form doesn't meet your needs, and let's say the first person who did a line 2 inspection form, they found that, oh, we actually need to ask an additional question in this form. Well, you edit the form, you change the form, you add the question in, and everything else slides down a bit. And now you have an additional question in that form, and it's just that simple. To change forms as you go, because obviously your approach to audits are going to change as your facility changes and grows. And finally, before I get over to Riley, this is really the last thing I want to share with you is in terms of decision making and how this becomes easy to make decisions. As we're, let's say, doing inspections in a mobile platform or a digital platform, you can see that there's going to be proposed corrective actions. This is a simple version of move the equipment so it's not as close to the other equipment to allow for clearer aisleways. This is a high priority. You can set priorities in these systems and you can really sort and filter your issues by high or low priority in a system like this as well. Submissions are viewed instantly so you can be making decisions quickly. Administrators can set up notifications that these have been completed in the learning management system. And then, yeah, pictures just make things. And so it's kind of hitting home the point from earlier that having an audio and a visual and also officialization. So the last thing I would say about mobile form technology is this has even happened as recently as this year. Hey, can you print this? So I filled this form out digitally. Can you print it out so you can sign it for me to make it official? And then can you scan that signed version back to me? I've had that happen all too many times where, yeah, I filled this out digitally and I typed it all in, but then you got to print it out and sign it to make it official and send it back to me, scan it. That's totally a thing of the past with these types of digital compliance systems, because you actually are able to sign your signature in the form. You can actually use your mobile device, stylus, or mouse to your mobile device in particular to sign in the form, and it becomes your signature in the form. So that's a really good benefit and just improvement of the process. So obviously I'm telling you all about it. Now I think we can go ahead and show you more about it as well with a demo. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share and allow Riley to take over. Thank you so much for being here, Riley.
Of course, glad to be able to join on and help out. So let me go ahead and share my screen really quick.
Yeah, y'all are going to see 2 instances of Riley here. I forgot to mention that at the beginning. Riley is here not only on your computer, Riley, but also on your mobile device. So we're going to start by seeing your mobile device here, and as we're filling out a form on your mobile device, and then we'll move to your computer to see some of the reporting data.
Perfect. So within here, I've just entered into our Fusion mobile app. This is downloadable on any iPad, iPhone, Android, or tablet device. Within here, one thing that is nice to mention is these forms can be used both online and offline. So what's really nice about that, at the beginning of the workday, if you have people going off to a site that doesn't have very good connectivity, you can actually go at the bottom left of the screen here and hit update. And when you do hit update here, it would actually allow you to update all of the data within that form. Now within here, I've already updated our form, so we'll go ahead and just jump into one of our inspection forms here by hitting the forms at the top left. We can go into our inspection form for ladders here. We'd go back and hit menu, and then that's where you select the actual person utilizing the inspection form. So within here, we have 3 pages within our form that we'll be filling out today. The first one is we're going to be marking our area that is being inspected. So for us today, that's just going to be location 1. And I will be the party that is inspecting that location. So page 2 is where we'll actually start to fill out that inspection form here. So it will have a couple questions, and you'll have the ability to make comments, add in a photo observation, or propose corrective action, or make a priority level when something needs to be fixed as well. So the first question, for example, here is, are ladders inspected and maintained in good condition? We'll have a yes, no value or not applicable. So we'll go ahead and say yes here. And as we scroll through, we can start filling out these different questions. So if we were to mark an assessment no, it is going to flag red within our system. Then we can make any comments that we need to make. We can always add a photo observation if we want to. And then we also can propose corrective action. So we can just say we need to replace here. And then we can put a priority on that, high, medium, or low. We'll go with the medium priority on this one. And then we'll just roll through and we'll finish answering these different questions here. So that allows us to answer all the questions that we had within our ladder inspection form. And then the final page here is where, again, I would mark off my name again. And we would finally sign and submit this inspection form. So within the inspection signature, we just click that. You can come in and sign, hit save at the bottom right. And now that we have completed everything within that form, we can submit here at the top right. Once we submit that form, we'll be able to hit submit on the left here. So my session did actually expire there, but if it had not, we would be able to have submitted that form and it would roll back into our system there. Cancel. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing from the app, and then I'll go ahead and show you some of the reporting functions as well. So within here, and Ryan, just double check me, can you see my screen here within the forms dashboard?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, perfect. So within our forms dashboard here, this is going to give you a summary view of some of the data that you'll have within your system. So you'll be able to see the forms that have been submitted over a 3-month, 6-month, 9-month, and 12-month period within your hazard forms. You'll also be able to see your training submissions year to year within our system. You also will be able to see the submitted forms by type, and you can always move those date ranges to really narrow down that summary of data. And then we'll also have our mobile forms comparison by month. So you really can see how many forms you are submitting month to month and how much you are utilizing these forms for your safety inspections or safety audit and compliance program. Within form submission here, the next thing to view here is the ability to kind of see your submission. So every submission that you have had submitted will show up within this form submissions tab here. Again, you can narrow it down by location. So if you have a location set in there, you can narrow that down just like that. Or you can go ahead and just click into the actual form that you want to see and click view, and that will bring up that form. So this is a fire protection form that I've gone through already and completed once. So as you can see here, you'll have that intro page. You'll also have that signature page as well that we saw there. And then finally, the inspection page. So walking through this, it looks the same where it's going to present that data as well. But for example, here's some photo observation. So when you do submit a photo, it will show up within your form submissions. You can review these as the admin of your system and be able to make sure that something, if it is wrong, gets corrective action. So for example, here On this form, we had a fire extinguisher missing from the assigned station. We need to replace that fire extinguisher before we have any hazard problems within that for our fire protection to be up to par. And then we also do, as mentioned before by Ryan, a multi-view section. Within our multi-view reporting, you'll have the ability to actually search up multiple forms and compare them. Again, you can narrow these down by location, you can narrow them down by the type of form and the status of that form as well within our system. When you come in here, we'll go ahead and select one of our inspection forms. You'll have to set your time period of when you want it to be reviewed. And then we can view all of those submissions. So this is an inspection form for electrical. And as you can see in here, it actually opens up 3 different submissions that I have completed within my system. If I want to go through and compare, let's say just 2 of those, I can click and hit compare at the top right here. And that will actually compare those forms. And then you'll have the ability to also export these forms to an Excel sheet, and they will have those data points side by side. That way you can review all of the data for these inspections and see how they have been improving over the time that you've been utilizing them to keep your safety program in compliance. And then finally, we have a little bit of customization available as well within our system, within our forms builder option. So just to walk you through some of these different scenarios here, we have the ability to digitize any of your current paper forms utilizing our new forms builder. So within the new forms option here, we can go ahead and we'll create a test form here. And we can actually select some of our options over here to actually go ahead and create this form. So we'll go with a second form page here. And then we'll go ahead and be able to put in a couple options. So we'll use our text, we'll use our item picker option. Use our signature and GPS location options as well. So as we come in here, we can go ahead and start to edit these different options when we're creating these forms. And then this one will be our question here. So for our item picker option, we'll just go with a simple question: what color is the sky today? And we'll create a couple options or a couple answers that we can have here. As we create those, you can actually go through and you can select which one would be the correct answer by checking this box here on the right, hitting that check mark, and then that will upload that one into the system there. And then, so right now we are good. We can go ahead and actually preview this form here. So as we preview this form, this is what our form would look like. So first off, the inspector's name, that would be me. Again, the color of the sky is blue. Now there's different values. Again, like I said before, if you pick the wrong answer, it will flag red for you. And then on that second page, we would be able to put our signature in that mobile form. So it's pretty simple, pretty easy to be able to actually create out a custom form pretty quickly. Within here as well, within that forms builder, you will have the ability as well to customize our current templates within the system. So if you wanted to come in here and take that same inspection form for ladders and customize it in your own site-specific needs, you can actually come over here and hit our copy form option, and that will give you the ability to select new form. And when you're doing that, you can actually type in custom form. And once we hit OK, it is actually going to open up our new forms builder again, but it's going to have that pre-set up template form already in there. And you can delete any of the questions that are already in there. You can add questions as necessary, edit this in any way that you see fit. So it allows you to have a template that you can customize from and not just from scratch. So there's a lot of different things that you can utilize when customizing forms within our system. And to show you one here, actually, I will preview a form that I made from scratch within our system for a job hazard analysis form. So within this, we have an introduction page. So it's going to walk us through the start date, the time of the report. I can select any location. So if I wanted to go through here, I can search up TPC training as my location, and then we can do a description of work. So within here, it has a list of potential hazards, and I can list all that apply as I need to. And then it does the same thing for our applicable safe work practices that we need to follow, any special precautions that we might need to take, any PPE gear that we could wear while utilizing while at the site for this job hazard analysis form. So you can list all that apply. And then finally, your review allows for you to make any comments and then sign here. Now, this is one that I just made by myself through in that new forms builder. So just to kind of illustrate, it is a very simple process to be able to digitize your paper forms into an actual digital software like our mobile audit and inspection software. And then finally, the last thing that I have to cover today is just some of the reporting capabilities that you have that can be automated for your team. So within our actual reports function, we do have our mobile forms report. And within that mobile form assignment report, there's a couple different things that you can utilize this for. You can narrow this down by the actual mobile form that has been completed, whether it is training or one of our safety inspection forms. You can actually have a different status, whether you need to add approved, no approval required, or pending approval status. And then you can update those due dates or completed dates. Within there, you can search that up. It's going to give you a full list view of every single one that has been completed with a percentage of score that you have received within that inspection form. So if you have an inspection form that is not 100%, there's obviously something that was flagged incorrect and that needs to be fixed very quickly or maybe even at a high priority. And then you can always export that to an Excel sheet. But what is really nice about our mobile forms assignment report is you can actually automate that report. So within our system, you can always schedule these reports to be actually sent out over an email to you at the first of every month, the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, or whenever you want these to be automated within our system. So it allows for all of that tracking to be directly reported to you at a quick, in a quick manner to be able to make those decisions very quickly. I'll go ahead and stop sharing here, Ryan, as well, so you can take back over.
Sounds great, Riley. Thank you so much. This has been obviously a super high level flyby for everyone. Just about maybe hoping getting your brainstorm going about just the potential for improving safety documentation and compliance in your facilities. So that really brings us to our final Q&A session. We have a couple Q&As coming on the Q&A line that we're happy to answer, and then keep them coming if you like. We got a few more extra minutes to answer them. The first question we're getting, Riley, is a program. They said, is this program like the program Auditor? And it is for sure in certain ways, but also it's different in a lot of other ways. Kind of each platform and software that's out there for documentation, we're definitely a competitor there. But where ours is a little bit different than kind of a typical just standard documentation system is that it's also integrated with a training and learning management system as well. So what's cool about this platform is that you can actually assign as one of, let's say, these mobile forms to have someone take a training. Then after they've been trained, then they will do the audit or the inspection after the training. For instance, you can have someone take a formal online self-paced e-learning course about the basics of electricity, for instance. But then you can have them jump into a form and actually have their supervisor jump into the form and assess their hands-on abilities on the job using one of these forms after that's over. So this really becomes a full kind of training in what we call workforce development solution. More than ever before. So that's really where we come into play. Is not only is there safety and compliance, but there's also just the whole idea of developing the workforce in this type of system as well. Because you can imagine safety and compliance and training, they go really hand in hand, really closely linked. And we're finding that too, that we want to have ability for people to manage and develop their training, but then do something about it by getting people trained and educated in the same system. So that's really where ours differs there. Hope that helps. Also, when it comes to different templates, Riley and I we just came together and made sure we had that latest list for you. We got a list of 18. Yes, absolutely. So for people who sign into our enterprise level system, I think you saw them on the list there briefly as we were going through the demo. Yeah, we have 18 initial templates that kind of map to the main subparts of OSHA that you can use as a template. And again, they are fully customizable, just like Riley showed. So the 18 templates, range from fire protection to walking and working surfaces, ladders like we saw today, compressed air, motorized vehicles and forklifts, exit routes and safety routes, first aid availability, chemical hazards and hazard communication, global harmonization, all that kind of good stuff, all those subparts of OSHA, electrical hazards, inspections, and that kind of thing. But then you can take those and really tailor them to your needs from there. So it's just our way of getting you started in your library once you get into the system. In terms of incident reporting, this is a great question from another facility. When it comes to doing incident reporting in the system, what do you think, Riley, about incident reporting? Do you think it's possible to make a custom form for incident reporting as well?
Yes, it is definitely possible to customize some incident reporting forms within our mobile audit and software inspection system. It really just depends on what form you have, the way it's set up, and we would actually be able to help with that process as well to understand a little bit better once we have a physical form where we can see what it looks like, and then it can be put over. But pretty much anything that you can imagine, there is a way to digitize that paper form into our current system.
For sure. Yeah, it really, as you saw, there's text, there's pictures, there's any sort of data you want to collect, whether it's incidents, the 5 why analysis. I figure you can make a form out of it for sure. That's where it again comes to workforce development and instead of just compliance. So this is a perfect opportunity for that as well. KPIs, another great one. I mean, I can easily see how you can create KPIs from these mobile forms too, because you're tracking information over a period of time, and then you can filter by that information and see how we're doing. So let's say one of our KPIs, can we go a whole year without having a safety incident, or can we make sure we're doing safety inspections every week, and that can be our KPI. That can be easily tracked in something like a system like this. Thank you very much for that question. Michael's asking, they've used similar platforms before for digital record keeping. Is there a QR code system that employees can scan to start a safety audit? So right now that answer is officially no, Michael, but we are definitely looking into kind of features and requests based on customer requests. The only issue with QR codes is that they take you to a link that presumably would immediately take you to that form. The issue with that is there's no security there. So any old person could scan that and start filling in forms, and maybe we don't want that. So that's kind of a tech challenge we deal with our customers who have more security mind about the access and availability of forms. So it's kind of where our head's at on that. We try to keep it in a secure mobile app instead. So it's hopefully just as easy to get to, where you just click on that icon on that mobile device that you're provided, and you just get right to the form that way. But you do have to use your login and password, which is a big part of people's compliance programs. They want to make sure they know who it is and verify who is filling in these inspections and these audits. And Jason is asking, is there a limit on users? What do you think, Riley?
From my knowledge, no, there's not a limit on the amount of users you could have within your system. Now, again, if you assign everything to them, I think it is an unlimited amount of users that you could utilize depending on what your program is and how you want to utilize it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree. And really that is with these learning management systems and these systems, they are designed for full organizations. and full and what we call enterprise scale at large scale. So yeah, that there really is no limit on the number of people that can interact with this once it's switched on for you, and once it's available to you, you can use it however you see fit, and by working with us to set that up. So really, there's a lot of more additional information we're gonna be happy to share with you. We've done a lot of these info sessions just to make sure people know what's out there and what's available to them, so just to start that discussion in-house at your facilities. But if you really want some more input, and hey, if you want to talk to me or Riley, our expert here, some more, feel free to reach out to us. We have a central email address now at sales@tpctraining.com, but it doesn't necessarily go to our sales team. It goes to our experts. Any question you have will go to our panel of consultants and experts and subject matter experts to answer your questions. So feel free to use this simple email address, sales@tpctraining.com, to reach out to us with any specific questions you have, and we'll be able to get you the information, insights, or maybe even schedule a phone call with you if you want to talk and maybe demo it out more. Get some demo access to this. We're welcome to let you have some free access to this for a period of time and try it out yourself, kind of thing. So there's all sorts of options you have there. So with that, I think that's the end of our session today. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here and for your great questions this afternoon, and have a great rest of your day.